Hey, this is Fluffy, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my top 9 of 2024. Top 9. What this means is, at the beginning of 2024, you pick 9 records that you really want, and you look for them, whether online or at store, for a good price. And so I've been participating, this is my second year participating in top 9. This is usually a thing on Instagram. I'm not sure. I don't really see people talk about top 9 here on YouTube, but I thought, what better way than show you guys what I was able to pick up from my top 9 of 2024. So without further ado, let's get right into what I picked up. When I decided for this year to pick my top 9, it was more of like spur of the moment, in that whatever I was listening to during that time period, I will put the top 9 records that I wanted. And so for this matter, it was a cat here, Freddie Hubbard. This album came out in 1964, and it's gotten a reissue. So, did I get it? And to answer you that question, no. I still have the tone poet of Freddie Hubbard's Breaking Point. This is a spectacular album with a phenomenal lineup. You have Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, James Spaulding on alto sax and flute, Ronnie Matthews on piano, Eddie Kahn on bass, and Joe Chambers on drums. Part of the reason why I wanted this album in its original format is because for a while I've been finding, at the beginning of the year rather, or towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, I had been finding these Freddie Hubbard records, and I thought, man, this is an album that I had not revisited during that time. I spun the tone poet, and I was just blown away with how good the music sounds. And the reissue is good. Like Kevin Gray did really such a good job on this. But lately, and I've mentioned this in previous videos now, I want to hear the Van Gelder cut of this album. So I decided to put that in my top 9 of 2024, and I've had not very much good luck finding this album. This is on the New York, USA Blue Note. So for the Freddie Hubbard record, I could not find an original, whether it be mono or stereo. I just did not have the luck of finding one, but perhaps next year. But this is not going to be on my top 9 for this next coming year. So next up on the list, we have none other than George Otsuka, Japanese drummer who I discovered last year actually through finding some of his records locally, and I instantly fell in love with his records. Here are the records actually, page 1 and page 2. So these 2 records, I was like, man, I gotta see if there's a page 3, 4, and onward, right? And sure enough, there was. This is one that I had no hesitation in putting in my top 9 for 2024. And for a while, I was just checking Discogs to see if there was a right listing, either here in the US, because, like I said, Japanese musician, so his albums were done in Japan. So I kept checking Discogs. The question is, did I get George Otsuka's page 3 last summer? I sure did. I was able to get this during the middle of the year. I found a good price on Discogs, and yeah, I've just been really enjoying these George Otsuka records. Some of them are very expensive, I've noticed, on this label. And man, I can't say I cannot recommend this enough. For those of you who are not familiar with George Otsuka, the drummer, and if you're a fan of drums, I highly, highly recommend him. He's just phenomenal, and like his trio work is like top notch stuff. A lot of the times, his albums were live albums. So these two, I believe, were live albums. Yeah, this one and page two, or page two and page one. Page three, if I remember correctly, is also a live album. So I'm very happy about that. George Otsuka was able to get it from my top 9 of 2024. Next up, we have on the list a Bethlehem title, Jimmy Nepper. Jimmy Nepper is one that am somewhat familiar. I know I've been trying to really get into the jazz trombone musicians. We have, the one Sean McCoy III, Curtis Fuller, J.D. Johnson, Kai Windy, etc. Jimmy Nepper, I think, did more of as a sideman than as a leader. I could be wrong, but anyways, this was more of a spur of the moment in that when I was on a Bethlehem kick, I was like, I gotta find a good Bethlehem title with a good lineup. And sure enough, I found the record. And to pretty much sum it up, did I get this Jimmy Nepper record? No. It is very hard to come by, especially in its original format. Really, really good hard bop session from the late 50s, early to late 50s. You have Bill Evans. That's one of the reasons why I got it. I did not know that Bill Evans was on a Bethlehem session. But you have Bill Evans on piano, Danny Richmond on drums, Teddy Kotick, who I believe plays bass, and you have these other musicians. But like I said, that title was more of a spur of the moment because I was on this Bethlehem kick. If you've been following the channel, during that time I was showing a bunch of Bethlehem titles, and right now I haven't really been finding much with the Bethlehem label, but hopefully I can find some more either locally or online for a good price. But yeah, the Jimmy Nepper record was a no-go for my top 9 2024. So as you've noticed, this top 9 is all jazz music, all jazz albums rather. And this next one is a no-brainer in terms of getting this album. It's the 1960 classic Wayne Shorter's Introducing Wayne Shorter on VJ. And of course, it comes with the classic lineup of Wayne Shorter on tenor sax, Lee Morgan on trumpet, Paul Chambers on bass, Wynton Kelly on piano. Who else do you have? It's not Art Blakey on drums. I think it's Jimmy Cobb on drums. Anyways, it's a stellar lineup. Early Wayne Shorter, and of course, it's on BJ. This record has gone up in price. I think a lot of the VJ titles have gone up in price, but I've had some good luck finding the VJ titles recently. At the time of this recording, have shown a Wayne Shorter record on VJ that was released later in the 70s called Wayne Shorter's Second Genesis. Now that is one people should also get. But Wayne Shorter's debut as a session leader is on VJ, and this is just a classic album that I want to get, I still want to get, and as you can tell, I don't have it. It's one of those that has eluded me during this year. I really was looking for the red label, which is the first pressing on VJ, but now I'm just looking for a copy, an early copy, if necessary. But yeah, I'm happy with what I have in terms of Wayne Shorter's catalog in my collection, but I would really love to have that Wayne Shorter, Introducing Wayne Shorter on VJ. So Wayne Shorter's Introducing Wayne Shorter on VJ was a no-go for me in terms of getting it for the top 9 records of 2024 moving forward. So the next album that I added to the top 9 want of 2024, the reason being is this cat I discovered through Don Cherry's group, He played in Don Cherry's album Symphony for Improvisers. You guys probably already know who it is. I showed this album, the only record that I showed from a while back that was a top 9 album of 20, or top 9 want album of 2024. Um, been wanting more of this cat's stuff. So far, I have a couple records of with him as a sideman and a couple of records of him as a leader. And I was happy to pick this one up at a shop here in Pasadena, rather. Sibylline Records. Thank you for having this record. This is Carl Berger. I always forget the name of this record, but it's Carl Berger. I know it has a name, and I forgot what the name of the title is, which is embarrassing, but this is a awesome free jazz record from 1967, I believe, on ESP disc. And yeah, you have a young Carl Berger playing vibraphone, and he's backed up with a nice group here. You have Carlos Ward on alto sax, Henry Grimes on bass, and Edward Blackwell on drums, recorded December 1966. This is one that's just, as soon as I listened to Don Cherry Symphony for Improvisers, the one cat that caught my attention in that album was this cat right here. Carl Berger's vibraphone playing is just pure magic. I know a lot of people don't like vibes, and I know a lot of people don't like when certain musicians play or sing or speak while they're playing. Carl Berger does both. And to me, I really enjoy those types of musicians, whether it's someone who's playing bass and doing, voicing is what I like to call, or piano. Like a big one example is like Bud Powell. He would be playing and he'll be, doing the voicing. I always forget what the term is actually called, but if you hear Carl Berger in Don Cherry Symphony for Improviser, or if you hear him on here, I think he also does that too. But this is one that I'm super happy that I got. I got this actually a couple months back, and it's great. I'm super happy. Now I'm just wanting more ESP disc, and now I'm wanting more Carl Berger, but I'm really happy with what I have in terms of Carl Berger right now. Next up, I told myself at the beginning of the year that I wanted to start collecting more records from this jazz label, and sure enough, this year has been I've been having really good luck with finding records on this jazz label. This is one I decided to put in my top 9 2024, and I found a copy. Which one am I talking about? This is Walter Bishop Jr. Choral Keys on Black Jazz. This came out in 1971, and this has gotten a reissue by Real Gone, I know, but for whatever reason, I've always wanted to find these original copies of Black Jazz. I know they're getting stupid expensive to find, or harder to find, more expensive to buy, but I found a copy for a really good price on Discogs at the beginning of the year, and I've been wanting to show this album actually. I really love the lineup on here. Walter Bishop Jr., who's just an absolutely outstanding piano player, is backed up here by Idris Muhammad on drums, Reggie Johnson on bass, Harold Vick on flute and soprano, Alan Schweitzbangner on drums, and Woody Shaw on trumpet. I had completely forgotten that Woody Shaw was on a black jazz record until I had gotten this record in the mail at the beginning of the year. But this is such a good album. I think in terms of black jazz titles, this is one of the top ones to get. Walter Bishop Jr. I know a lot of people want Henry Franklin's records on black jazz. Calvin Keys has a record on black jazz. Rudolph Johnson, underrated AF, but also really good stuff. This label never disappoints, in my opinion. I think people should get everything from this label. And I'm glad Real Gone did the reissues for this, because I know some people don't want to pay so much for jazz records. So this next one, I'm surprised I could not find a good original copy of. I know Analog Productions put out a 45 reissue of this album, I think this year, but I decided I'm pretty much done with 45s, or at least I'm just going to lower my 45s collection because I prefer 33s. Anyways, the record that I'm talking about is Charles Mingus, The Clown. That is one of my favorite early Charles Mingus records, and it is a huge group. I mean, it's a large combo of musicians, and they all jam on there. I think for in terms of like early Charles Mingus, I think a lot of his albums were larger groups. You know, I did pick up Charles Mingus Blues and Roots. That is another super awesome record, but I just could not find a copy of The Clown. The Clown is, I feel like The Clown is not for everyone, and quite frankly, I think Charles Mingus is not for everyone, but I've been listening to Charles Mingus since high school. I am very familiar with the people that played with Charles Mingus, and I know, like, I've also heard of how Charles Mingus was as a person, not only as a musician, but also as a person. So, you know, I want to collect more Charles Mingus, and I do have a few, but definitely one that I really want is The Clown. And unfortunately, could not find a copy of The Clown. So The Clown for top 9 wants of 2024 was a no, unfortunately. This last record really should have been the second to last. I'm not sure why. I guess while I was making the list, it was also spur of the moment, and this record was honestly kind of the spur of the moment pick. Which record am I talking about? Billy Mitchell's This Is Billy Mitchell on Smash, a record label that I was not very too familiar with, and I'm still really not really not familiar with still. But Billy Mitchell, tenor sax player, awesome cat. That, I mean, you'll be surprised where he played as a sideman, but he has another album which I should have taken out on Smash that I did find a promo copy of either this year or last year. I think it was last year, but part of the reason why I wanted the This Is Billy Mitchell on Smash is because of the record that I picked up. I think now is last year. Could not find a copy. The prices on that one vary. It should be a cheap record, but for whatever reason, people are listening for more than it should be. Billy Mitchell, underrated jazz saxophonist. Like I said, you will be surprised in what albums he's in as a sideman and who he plays with. It's incredible, but highly recommend Billy Mitchell and the albums that he's in. Last but certainly not least, the one record, or rather the record that caught my eye at the beginning of 2024. I kept seeing people showing this, and I was like, I have the reissue of it, but it would be cool to have or to find an original. And at the beginning of the video, I was showing you guys some albums that I have a reissue of and a original, or not original, either original or early copy pressing of. And if you guys figured it out, those records were put on Impulse, and this one was also put on Impulse. And which record am I talking about? Well, here is the reissue of Alice Coltrane's Battah the Eldad. This is a masterpiece right here. Alice Coltrane with Joe Henderson and Pharoah Sanders, and of course, Alice Coltrane. And man, oh man, I made it my mission to find a copy either at the local record stores and online, whether it was on eBay or Discogs. I wanted to find one for a good price. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say I found an early reissue. I think this is the second pressing of Alice Coltrane's Bata the Eldad with the hype sticker featuring Pharoah Sanders and Joe Henderson. This, like I said, is a second pressing because of the box being separated to, so now there's two boxes there. Originally it came out with the box connected. I don't know what the proper term is, but for those of you who know, you know. Anyways, I am super happy to have found a copy, and quite honestly, I don't care if it was an original. As long as it's an early copy of this, I'm just happy. And from what I read, this release came out not long after the original, so it's only a matter. The only difference is really that right there. But look at the price sticker. I wish I would have paid that instead of what I actually paid online. But yeah, this was a Discogs purchase, and man, so might as well show you guys what I showed at the beginning. So here is Ahmad Jamal, The Awakening, Verve by Request reissue, and this is a second pressing of Ahmad Jamal's The Awakening. John Coltrane's iconic A Love Supreme. This is the Acoustic Sounds reissue, and this is an original mono on Impulse. Like I said, these records were put on Impulse. And lastly, Alice Coltrane's 1970 album on Impulse, Bata the Eldad, with Pharoah Sanders and Joe Henderson, and of course more musicians. And also this is now in my collection. But yes, I am super happy with what I picked up this year, and I cannot wait to make my list for top 9 want list of 2025. If you guys stuck this far, thank you so much. As always, I really appreciate when you guys watch all the way through. Let me know if you guys also participate in the top 9 wants of every year, and whether it be jazz or any other genre that you're into, let me know. Thank you guys so much once again, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care.